Dear friends, in this tutorial we are going to look at how to handle missing data in Pandas. Now, often when you are downloading data from internet, or let's say getting it from any other source, it might have missing values as shown in this CSV file. This file contains New York City's weather data, and you can see that some of these cells are not having any value in it. Also, it is missing the data for 2nd and 3rd January. Okay, so when you're processing this kind of information in Pandas, we will see how you can deal with these missing values using fillna, interpolate, and dropna methods. I have more tutorials on how to handle missing data, but this is just a start and we are only covering these 3 methods. Okay, so as usual, I'm going to start my Jupyter notebook. Now, if you don't know what is Jupyter notebook, I have a separate tutorial on it, but you can also use any IDE of your choice, such as PyCharm or Notepad++, whatever you prefer. I like Jupyter notebook because it is great with data visualization. Okay, so I'm going to click on new and start a new Python notebook, and the first thing we do as usual is import pandas as PD, and then I will read the CSV file that I just showed you, okay, and print the data frame. The star that you are seeing here means it was processing it, so it read this CSV file successfully into a data frame. Now, for the purpose of this tutorial, I want to make my day a date column. So let me show you what I mean by that. So when you normally read CSV like this, what it's gonna do is it's gonna read day as a string column. You can see it is a string. So whatever you're seeing here, this is nothing but a string. It's not an Excel file. Okay, it's a CSV file. So I want to first convert that column into a date column, and for doing that you have to use parse dates argument, and in that you can say that parse day column as a date type. Okay, and when you do that, okay, let's first print it. You can see that it converted. Now, by looking at it, you cannot probably figure out the type, so what I do usually is just, so you can see that now the type is timestamp. Okay, so we're good. All right, so I got day as a datetime column. Now I want to make this an index for my data frame, and in order to do that, you can just say df.set index day as your index, and in place equal to true. Remember, you have to do in place equal to true, otherwise it's not gonna modify the original data frame, but instead it will return a new data frame. Okay, and when you do that, you got day as your index. Now, if you have NA values, and if you are processing this information, then you have to do spatial handling. You have to check, like, if value equal to NA, then do this spatial thing. Okay, often it makes sense to replace these NA values with some meaningful value or a guess. Okay, so in this case, let's say I want to replace all NaN values with some other value. Okay, so the first method that we are going to cover is fillna. Okay, so what you can do is df.fillna. Okay, and in bracket you can pass the value that you want NA to replace with. Okay, and I'm not going to modify my original data frame, but instead get this back into a new data frame. And when I run it, you can see that all these NaN values that it had, it replaced them with 0 value. You can see that everything that was NA is 0 now. Okay, so this is good. Now sometimes having 0 is not probably the best guess, so you want to come up with a better guess. Okay, for example, here in the case of event, what does 0 mean, right? So maybe you want to use fill NA, but you don't want to fill entire data frame with this value. Maybe you want to specify different values for different columns. Okay, so Pandas supports that also. So the way you do it is, again, I'm going to receive it in new data frame, and inside fill NA method now you can pass a dictionary. Okay, now what does this dictionary contain? So dictionary contains name of the column. Okay, now in temperature column, let's say I want to replace all NA values with 0, and in my day not day but wind speed column, I want to replace it with again 0, but my event I want to say no event. Okay, and then print new data frame. Now as you can see here, the temperature and wind speed, it replaced with 0, as you can see here, but the event, now I have no event. Okay, so you can just use this dictionary to fill specific values for a specific column. But still I'm not happy with how I handle missing values here, because see, if you're calculating a mean or something for this temperature, then mean is gonna come really horrible, and if someone looks at data, he will think, okay, on 1st January it was 32 temperature, and the 2nd January it was 0 Fahrenheit, right? Someone might think this the temperature went down by so much, but in reality we actually don't know what was the temperature, and all we are trying to do is come up with some estimate. Okay, so then the other way of getting better estimate would be just to carry forward the temperature on 1st January here. Okay, so whatever was the temperature on the previous day, you carry forward, and you do it in a similar way for other two data types. Okay, so for that you can use again your fill NA method. Okay, but here what you will do is you will say method equal to forward fill. Forward fill you can specify by typing f fill. F fill means if I have NA value, then just carry forward previous day's value. Okay, so let's print that. Okay, cool. Now you can see that it just carry forwarded the value from the previous day. So 4th January had NA value, but now it carry forwarded 1st January's value here. So this looks little better than just having 0 value. Okay, same thing on 9th January I didn't have any event. So you look at 9th January, now it is sunny because you carry forwarded previous day's value. You can also use backward fill, meaning carry forward next day's value. It's not really carry forward, but you're copying, instead of copying previous day's value, you're copying next day's value. So if you do that, what's going to happen is now 4th January has a value from 5th January. So now it copied value from 5th to 4th. Okay, so you can use bfill method also. Now if you go to Pandas documentation, you can just Google in Pandas fill NA. It's gonna show the documentation for fill NA, and you can see that we used backfill, bfill, and ffill. You can also use pad or like word backfill. Okay, so you can use all of that. You also have this other argument called axis. So let's see what axis can do for us. So here, if I say axis, okay, axis equal to columns, when you do axis is equal to column, what it is doing now is, let me open this CSV file here. So here, previously when we were using backfill, it was copying values vertically, like it will go vertically and copy value from here to here. But now with axis equal to columns, it's copying values horizontally. So it's going row by row and copying value from previous cell. So here, look at here, it was 9 and it copied that 9 into temperature. So you can see this 9 is copied here, then the snow was copied here. So you can see this was snow and this is also snow now. So you can, based on what kind of data you are dealing with, you can copy it either horizontally or vertically. Okay, now if you check the documentation of fillna, it has another interesting property or argument called limit. So let me show you what limit can do for you. So here I'm going to replace this with forward fill and just kind of show you. So when you have forward fill, let's say in the case of 7 January I had 32, and it will just copy 32 to both of these missing data points. Okay, now let's say due to some reason I want to carry forward this value only once. Okay, so I want to copy it only here but not here. In that case, you can specify limit and you can say my limit is 1 as far as copying my valid value to missing value is concerned. Okay, so when you run this, you can see that now 7 January value was 32, it copied that to 8, but 9 still has NA because my limit is 1. I can copy it only once. Okay, same thing here. 6 January wind speed was 7 miles per hour and it copied it to 7th. So you can see that 7 January now also has that value, but 8 and 9 January has NA. Okay, if you change limit to be 2, you will notice that this 7 is copied here 2 times, right? 7 and 7, but my 9th January is still NA. Okay, so this is how you can use your limit parameter. Okay, now I'm still not happy with the guess that I'm making, because if the temperature on 1st January was 32 and on 5th it was 28, it is likely that the temperature on 4th was in between. Okay, I mean, it's not always guaranteed, but that's something you would consider a better guess. Okay, so we have a method called interpolate in Pandas. So let me just create a new cell, and by the way, I'm using the shortcuts. You can access all the shortcuts here. So when you say insert cell below, the shortcut is B, so that's what I'm using. So I'm here, I'm pressing B, it's creating a new cell for me. Okay, so here df dot interpolate. Okay, so when you do df dot interpolate, it's gonna interpolate the values. So if you look at your new data from here, you will notice that now for the 4th January it came up with a better guess, which is a linear interpolation. So if you have studied linear interpolation, you will come up with this value 30. Okay, so it was 32, 28, and you're gradually transitioning and having this intermediate data point. Okay, so this is probably a better guess. Okay, and it did the same thing for these 2 cells also. You can see that 32, 34, and here is 32.66, 33.33. So it's somehow coming up with this, it was 33.33. So it's using interpolation, linear interpolation, and coming up with this values. Okay, So again, I'm going to go ahead and check the documentation for interpolate. So in search bar, you can type in interpolate and look at data frame.interpolate documentation. And you will notice that in a method, if you don't specify anything, it is by default linear, but you can use so many other methods. You can use quadratic, cubic, and piecewise polynomial. There are so many methods to specify as far as your interpolation is concerned. Okay, so I'm going to use time now. So let's see what time can do for us. So here, before we do that, you will see that using linear interpolation, it came up with the middle value. Okay, 32 and 28, the middle value is 30. But look at the date. Okay, date is not in the middle. Okay, date is more near towards 5th January. Okay, so I'm missing 2nd and 3rd January. So 30 still doesn't look like a better guess. It should be relatively near to this value 28. So when you use method equal to time, you can see that now it came up with value 29, because now it is considering this time, this date also in coming up with this value. It is realizing that 4th January is near to 5th, hence the value should not be exactly in middle, but it should be more near to this value. Okay, so this feature I found to be pretty powerful whenever you are making a guess or estimate for missing values. Okay, so far so good. Sometimes based on the situation, I just want to, let's say, drop all the rows with NA values. In that case, you can use this method called drop NA. So you can say df drop NA. Okay, and I'm just printing the new data frame. So you can see that in my Excel sheet, whichever row had any NA value, okay, it dropped all of them. So now I got only 3 rows which has valid content in all of the columns. Okay, sometimes you want to drop the row if it has at least one NA. Okay, so here what it is doing is, actually it is doing that. So here, if you have at least one NA, it is dropping it. But let's say I want to drop only if it has all NA. So for example, I want to drop this row, but I still want to preserve these rows because it has at least some data. Okay, so for that you can use how parameter, and you can say how is equal to all. So now you don't see 9th January here in this data frame because it had all the values to be NA. It has this date, but this date is a index, so it is not considering that in the process of dropping. Okay, and these values, these rows has some NA cells, but not everything is NA, so it's not dropping that. Okay, now what if I want to go by non-NA value? So let's say I want to say that if I have at least one non-NA value, then keep that row and drop any other rows. So for that you can use a threshold parameter. So you can say threshold equal to 1. Threshold equal to 1 means if I have at least one non-NA value, then keep the row. Okay, so when you run that, see what happens is again the same result. 9th January got dropped because it doesn't have any valid value. Everything was NA. Okay, now so it kept this 6th January value because it has at least one valid value. So if I change threshold to be 1, what it means is, all right, so let's run this. Okay, now when I say threshold equal to 2, it dropped this particular, you can see it dropped that particular row, because 2 means I need 2 valid values in order to keep the row, but I don't have 2 valid values. I have only one value. The date is not counted because it is index. Okay, so if I have one value, I'm going to drop it. Okay, so you can use threshold to drive your dropping process by number of valid values that you have. Okay, last thing that we want to cover is how do you go about inserting the missing dates. So I don't have 2nd and 3rd January here, and I want to, let's say, insert those dates. So for that you will do something like this. So here you will create a date range, and using the date range, so let's say I have a date range from 1st January to 11th January. So 1st January to 11th January, I created a date range. So this is your date range, and you pass that to date time index and create a date time index, and then you do reindexing in your data frame. So I'm saying df.reindex using that index, and when you print your data frame again, so you have to do in place equal to true. Okay, I'm getting some error here because reindex got unexpected keyword argument. Okay, so this is unexpected. So let's see what's going on here. Okay, so looks like reindex is not accepting in place as a valid argument. So what I have to do is df equal to df.reindex, and when I execute it, you'll see that I got 2nd and 3rd January rows. Now I have NA values, but again you can use one of the fill NA methods to fill them with some estimated values. Okay, so that's all we had for this tutorial. In the next tutorial we will continue on how to handle missing data using some other techniques. Okay, until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you like this tutorial, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up below. Okay, bye.